there, my name is Jess and welcome to my channel. Have a look at this. Today I'm going to be trying a slightly creatively different video in talking to you about my new reading habits and branching out. When I was younger, I was always a person who kind of read very specifically in one genre, and it's only really been over the past few years that I've decided to branch out and read more new material and stuff that I wouldn't have thought to have looked at before. More schoolwork means that I haven't been reading as much as I once did. I feel like I'm reading more widely than I ever did. My glasses are leaving such weird shadows on my face, and I don't know if it's a good shot for video. So I'm a big believer that you should just, follow your instincts and read what you want to read. But for me, I've really enjoyed this year of branching out and of discovering more different genres, different authors, different writing styles, because I feel like I'm more knowledgeable about all the literature than I ever was before, and I am just really enjoying it. So I thought I would share with you my thoughts, feels and reading habits. We start out in 2005, and 2005 is when 6-year-old me picked up the first book in the Rainbow Magic series, and from that point on I pretty much refused to read anything unless it had a fairy in it. It's weird because when me and my mum were going through my room and my books a few years ago, I found like 40 different Rainbow Magic fairy books. I remember reading each one like 2 or 3 times, which meant that I probably read like 120 books worth of fairy stories, and I still didn't grow sick of them for about 3 years. Then came 2007, forever cemented in my mind as the year in which I first read a little book called Twilight. Just joking, that stopped for a few years. When I first read a little book called Harry Potter, and it honestly changed my life, and from that moment on I didn't really want to read anything apart from rereads about the boy wizard and all his friends. Occasionally I would branch out into other books, but it's pretty safe to say that I didn't read anything but high fantasy or Harry Potter for quite a few years. Then it was 2010, and 11-year-old me thought it would be a good idea to pick up the book which everyone was raging about, Twilight. I got quite surprised when reading this book because I'd heard that it was about vampires and had expected like the blood-sucking Transylvanian accent Dracula style rather than pretty people that sparkled in the sunlight. Also, can we just talk about how completely irrelevant that cover was? I mean, at what point in the book does he ever hold an apple out to her with 2 hands? It's not even representative. Yeah, but from this point on I was completely obsessed, and as I had with Harry Potter, I was now either doing Twilight rereads or only like paranormal books that involved werewolves, vampires, or some shirtless combination of them both. I didn't really agree with the whole shaming Twilight or saying that you've outgrown it, because I commend this book for being the book that caused so many people to choose to read and to continue to read, but I'm not exactly as crazy about it now as I used to be. Just joking. Team Edward for life. And then came 2012, and this was the year that I remember being introduced to YA, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I just loved the fact that I was reading a genre in which people my age and teenagers, people that I'd felt were kind of belittled in the world and in film and in literature, got to be the stars of their own novel, and I just loved it. And this is probably my longest lasting reading phase. I don't think I read anything but YA for a good solid 2 to 3 years. Then came 2016, and I think the beginnings of me expanding my reading had already started around this time, but this was when I'd really noticed it. I found that I was no longer just looking to read YA, or just looking to read about vampires, or just looking to read about boy wizards. I wanted to read everything. And then I decided that I wanted to read some classics, and after I'd read some classics I decided that I wanted to read some historical fiction, and after I'd read some historical fiction I wanted to read some chick lit, and after I read some chick lit I wanted to read some magical realism, and after I read some magical realism set in Spain I decided to read Spanish poetry in Spanish. So yeah, if you subscribe to my channel you might notice that recently my wrap-up videos have been a pretty eclectic mix. I'm really enjoying this whole branching out thing though. I've discovered so many brilliant books and so many wonderful genres and authors, and I'm reading poetry. I never read poetry before and I'm loving that experience. I think the moral of this video is there is a moral that you shouldn't be afraid to branch out. Even if you do feel like constricted to one genre or like being in one genre, maybe you could discover something that you really liked, as I have. And yeah, that was kind of the whole point of this video, really. Obviously there is no shame in loving a genre and wanting to stay within that genre. If you see a book on the shelf and it catches your eye, maybe you like the sound of the synopsis, or maybe the cover's really gorgeous, and you think, oh, that's not something I'd usually read, why not give it a go? Because you actually might read something that you really like and it could introduce you to a whole new world of literature.